President Trump says the U.S. will help coordinate European security guarantees for Ukraine after meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky and European allies at the White House yesterday. Trump posting that he called Russian President Putin and is arranging a meeting between him and Zelensky, saying, quote, after that meeting takes place, we will have a trilat. Former advisor to UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, joins us now. Thank you for joining us this morning. So, first off, I just want to ask you, what brought all of these people to the table yesterday in that extraordinary meeting at the White House?
Well, great to see you, Charlie. Thanks for having me on the show today. I think the meeting yesterday at the White House was very historic. And what brought all of these European leaders together here in Washington was the strong, bold leadership of President Trump. I think that if you had Kamala Harris as president, you would not have seen this kind of gathering of the coalition of the willing. You're seeing strong, robust American leadership on the world stage, the projection of American global power. And you have a very serious president who is 100% committed to leading the free world. So I thought yesterday was actually a very successful day, actually, for the entire transatlantic alliance, and a very good day, I think, for American leadership on the international stage.
Of course, as President Trump himself said, there's no deal until there's a deal. But can you explain to us a little bit about how these security guarantees might work, and why specifically would Russian President Putin suddenly agree to consider this?
Well, those are great questions. With regard to the security guarantee, President Trump has talked about the United States participating in such a guarantee. He hasn't outlined exactly what that form would be in terms of U.S. involvement, but most likely, I think we would see European forces on the ground inside Ukraine, probably British and French troops in Ukraine, acting in support of Ukraine's army. So I don't think you would see actually U.S. boots on the ground in Ukraine, but you would see European forces. And this would be a coalition of the willing arrangement. It would not be a NATO operation, but it would involve, I think, a wide array of European countries with the support of the United States. And there is immense pressure, of course, being applied on Vladimir Putin right now. Donald Trump has warned of severe consequences for the Russians if they do not end the war swiftly. And so U.S. pressure certainly is playing a huge role here. And the reality is, of course, that the United States could cripple the Russian economy through sanctions. And Vladimir Putin, of course, fears American power and American might. He doesn't, of course, fear the likes of the European Union, but he does fear American leadership. And President Trump is a very tough leader, a very strong and determined leader, and he's certainly standing up to Vladimir Putin right now. So this is why the Russians are being forced to the negotiating table.
Are you surprised by the positioning of Vladimir Putin? Is he weaker than you thought he was, say, 2 weeks ago?
Well, I think the reality is that the Russian economy is very weak. And the fact that the United States is talking about secondary sanctions against those countries that are buying Russian energy and oil, this is really devastating, I think, potentially for the Russian economy. And this is forcing Putin to the negotiating table. Only Donald Trump can force Putin to the negotiating table.
Right. Niall Gardner, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.